Hello, everyone, and welcome to our old school wrestling review on World Championship Wrestling from Saturday, April 20th, 1985. Actually, it was played from 5:35 to 7:35 p.m. because the Braves was playing that night. All right, folks, we will be getting to that in just a moment. Our panel, as always, Jack the Bomber Lord, Rodney West. Jack, I think you've got some information for us before we start our review.
Yeah, I had a lot of folks been asking about Tracy Smothers, and I talked to Tracy last night. He is doing some better. They got his heart rate regulated, and he was hoping to get to go home today. He said that he would be going back to the hospital in 2 weeks, and they were going to line up whatever kind of treatment they were going to start for his cancer that has come back. So he's kind of in limbo. He didn't know anything other than that, but he was definitely feeling better than he has felt. And also, Baby Doll, who is featured on the show tonight that we're going to review, her mother passed away last night. Lorianne Johnson, she was one of the last big female stars from the 50s that's still with us. And she was also the World Tag Team Champs with Penny Banner for several years. And she was the wife of Nick Roberts, who was a big promoter from, I think, out in the Texas area. So our condolences to Baby Doll and our good hopes to Tracy that things go well.
Yes, indeed. All right, guys, are you ready? World Championship Wrestling, Saturday, April 20th, 1985. Rodney, it starts out with a hot opening.
Oh, yeah, this was from Worldwide Wrestling. It was, in the back, it was David Crockett talking with Tully Blanchard. Dusty Rhodes is in the ring, and all of a sudden, here comes Baby Doll getting in the face of Dusty. She reaches up and slaps him in the face, and then Dusty retaliates with his own slap to the face. Of course, TBS does not show that, that's typical with them. They will not show that. I'm surprised they got away with the chain the last week. But yeah, he goes back and slapped. And if you got to see that whole thing on Worldwide, it's tremendous. He's like, I don't know what happened. I just lost. She slapped me, and I just slapped her back. I don't know what happened there. I normally wouldn't do such a thing. And then Blanchard said, look at that man slapping a woman. It's really good stuff.
I thought it was good when Tully said, if a man can get beat when a woman kicks him in the side, then you know what? He ain't much of a wrestler. Now, you, David Crockett, might get kicked. That was good stuff, I thought. Good stuff. You know, the Worldwide Wrestling show, and we'll have to go back in time and go through that one as well. You know, that show was a little bit way up here compared to the because, honestly, TBS wouldn't let you do anything.
Yeah.
No.
They
had major censors on you. You say the wrong word, you do the wrong thing, and you're in the office on Monday morning and explaining why, and they'll explain to you what they want for the show, and that is not one of them.
Well, then Tony Giovanni and David Crockett, not Davy Crockett, that's a completely different person. David Crockett, watch it, you're fixing, watch it. But David Crockett and Tony Giovanni opens the show, and they have the Russians. Jack, what did you think about they were building up for the World Television title match? What did you think about the interview?
I thought the interview was great. I wish that Crusher had adopted a little bit more of a gruff voice so that he would have fit in with the other two. But other than that, it was a great interview setting up. And I love Nikita. He is so intense.
Yes, he is. And you know, always talking about Ric Flair. So he was going to evidently wrestle against Ric Flair at some of the house shows that they were doing. Right after that, Nature Boy Buddy Landell and James J. Dillon went against Mac Jeffers. Again, Mac was needing a little work during this, but it was a great match. It did what it needed to do. Dusty Rhodes was showing that he wanted to push Buddy Landell. The only thing I saw in that was is where did James J. Dillon get that tuxedo he had? Did y'all see this thing?
Well, at first, they didn't even acknowledge that Dillon was at ringside. Wasn't on there till later on. And but yeah, you didn't see him. I thought, well, maybe Dillon pulled a no-show, but later on he did come in, and maybe he slept in his suit or something. I don't know.
Did y'all notice during the match that Dave, what really wasn't Dave, wasn't Crockett, but it was Tony Giovanni kept on saying it makes no sense to me why he's working on the guy's arm and on his arm when he finishes the guy with the figure 4 leg lock. Did y'all notice that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and he was right. It didn't make any sense. I love the referee in this one, Scrappy McGowan. He's one of our favorites. He was doing the refereeing in this one.
Yeah.
Then right after that, Tully Blanchard did an interview, and Tully Blanchard again, he was pushing for that match, that World Television Title match. They were still pushing that, so people to know that Dusty Rhodes would go against Crusher Khrushchev later on for the World TV Title. Tully did a great job on this, I thought. Telling them, hey, listen, it didn't matter if it was Dusty Rhodes or if it was Crusher Khrushchev. He was going after that World Television Title because him and Baby Doll had a lifestyle.
That's right. Had a lifestyle, and he was challenging the winner. He didn't matter which one won the match. He's the first one to challenge the winner of that match. Awesome stuff.
All right, Jack, right after that, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and Jim Crockett with the new World Television Title. What did you think about the interview with Dusty?
I thought it was good. It elevated that title even higher. I understood why they did it. I thought they did that very well. And Dusty, of course, goes right into his promo. He's got that pretty belt, but he's ready for his time.
That was his risky business interview. Let me tell you, risky business. And then also it had the risky business, and he also had We Are the World, and as well. I don't know if that was when that came out or not, but those were the two things he said in the interview. They were so good. That interview was so good, and it got the World Television Title over. And then Rodney, Magnum TA, Doug Vines.
Yeah, one move, belly to belly. That was it. That was pretty much it. And that was a few seconds.
4 seconds.
He was 4 seconds. And as I put on here, just wish Magnum's interviews lasted that long. Actually, he was better in this show. I thought he didn't seem quite as rushed, very relaxed, and he came over better on this one.
Doesn't Doug Vines go on to work in other places?
Oh yeah, we've seen him in Mid-South wrestling as well.
Yeah, I thought he had went on to other places. I did. Well, then Ric Flair interview. Jack, what do you think about
Keep the camera on me. Don't be looking at them women out in the crowd. The Nature Boys here. I thought that was great. I mean, it was just, and he was having fun because he was smiling while he was doing all that, and just vintage Nature Boy. I mean, nobody better than him behind the stick.
No, Rodney, an interview with Ric Flair.
No, awesome as always. Never a bad one. Never a bad one. Always getting himself over, always getting the world title over, making sure that belt is prevalent right there for all to see.
Very, very good interview. And then Nikita Koloff goes against Josh Straub. Ooh, this was hard to watch.
We had talked a while back about wondered why Josh Straub didn't get a bigger push. And I figured it out from watching this match is he knew how to bump. He bumped on everything. I think if he had been sneezed on, I believe he would have took him. But he had no selling. I mean, once he took the bump, he just laid there. And we know that, your ability to sell is what really gets you over with everybody. He was a bump machine now, but that selling part, boy, he had a lot to work on.
Rodney, what did you think about this match?
I thought it was Ivan Koloff, but
anyway. Did I say Nikita?
Yeah, it was Ivan Koloff.
It was Ivan. Yeah.
Ivan wanted to give him something. He really wanted to give him something, but he tried. He really, really tried. And in the end, Ivan just had to eat his lunch. I mean, there was no other way. But Ivan tried to make him somebody. Guess what you do? You build up your opponent so that you can beat somebody. The bottom line is Josh basically beat himself.
Yeah, it was pretty.
Of course, he got him with the clothesline, then followed up with the very unique version of the Coke.
Hey, they called
this is the. I think Josh was afraid.
Did Josh not give up? Was he waiting, or did they mean to do that?
This is a similar situation with Hercules, Fernandez, and the Shinnomaki.
Yeah.
The same, almost identical, the same thing. It was something about the Cobra, apparently. The Shinnomaki, the Cobra. So, yeah, it was something wrong.
Well, Ivan knew. I could tell, though, Josh was pushing his arm out. He was not going to let his arm go back the way it should. He was pushing it out there. So they just, Ivan and the referee covered for it the best they could.
That was a pretty sad match, but Ivan did try. Ivan really worked.
And he really did want to give him something, make him look good.
Yeah.
All right. Right after that, Tony Giovanni interviews Paul Jones.
That's number one, Paul Jones too.
And he takes that, man. When he takes that, I'm gathering he just got hurt somewhere down the line, but man, he had things all over the place.
Yeah, his hand was swelled up. I mean, obviously it was a legit surgery deal.
That was brutal looking. And then Rodney, once again they get to the thing with Jimmy Valiant, and I'll let you tell exactly what happened.
Jimmy Valiant comes to the ring with his axe handle. Well, he tries to hit Barbarian with an axe handle. Barbarian blocks it, knocks it out of his hand. Then it's Jimmy Valiant, the Barbarian, in the ropes. Paul Jones picks up the axe handle one-handed and smacks Jimmy Valiant with the axe handle. Then it's Billy Graham and Paul Jones picking it up to clothesline Jimmy Valiant with the axe handle. And of course, we get to that part, and it freezes because TBS does not want to show that. So, but they come right up to it.
Well, TBS didn't want to show anything, so it was not a booking decision. It was TBS that would not allow that kind of stuff to be shown. They didn't like any chairs to be used. They didn't like anything to be used on their show. Period. It's incredible what they let put on television today on that network.
Like we were saying, there's a distinct difference between the World Championship Wrestling Show on TBS and what they did on Worldwide Wrestling and on Mid Atlantic Wrestling.
Right after that, the American Dream Dusty Rhodes comes out to do his interview for the World Television title that's going to happen later on. And Ivan Koloff, Uncle Ivan, comes out. All right, Jack, what did you think about Dusty Rhodes and Ivan Koloff in this?
I thought it was a great exchange, just like always. You could tell, or I could, they were having fun doing what they did, but they were selling tickets. So,
and so people know, on Sunday, May 12th, 1985, at the Omni in Atlanta, Thunderbolt Patterson and Manny Fernandez was going to go against Ole and Arn Anderson. And then also Jimmy Valiant was going against Abdullah the Butcher with Paul Jones. And then Dusty Rhodes and a mystery partner was going against Ivan and Nikita Koloff. Because in this interview, he says, I can get any kind of gorillas like you two and go against you at any time. So it was getting ready for the Omni show on Saturday, May the 12th. So every bit of this, everything that's done on this show is getting ready for the Omni show for Sunday, May 12th. So now, one thing I thought was funny with Dusty is he said, the only thing I'm scared of. Well, no, I don't really know what I'm scared of, but
Dusty had to censor himself on that show, in that interview.
Yeah, I did.
He was about to say something. He said, "Oh, I'm about to get in trouble." You could see it on his face. He looked at it. Was it Tony was interviewing? He looked at him.
Yeah, it was Tony.
Yeah, I don't know if I should say.
Well, right after that, Abdullah the Butcher with Paul Jones. Number one, Paul Jones against Gene Ligon. Jack, what did you think about the match?
I thought the match was solid. To me, Abby's one of those guys that you should very, very limit on what you put him on TV, other than just have him out there, looking like he's going to eat somebody's head off. He's much better live in front of a live big crowd. I think that brutality gets over better. Yeah,
I think that match went a little long.
Yeah.
Rodney, what did you think about Abdullah the Butcher?
It was typical Abdullah ending with the elbow drop. And of course, in that match, apparently Bronco Lubitsch was ill at the time, and they were sending out their regards to him. And of course, Bronco was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, a big star in the Carolinas back in the '60s, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, then Tully Blanchard with Baby Dog goes against TJ Tripp. A great match. But, man, how in the world did Tully Blanchard do that suplex with that big old dude?
I was watching that, and I was thinking, surely he can't get him up. But I guess the guy gave him just enough lift to get him up there. But it was a few more inches, and it wouldn't have made it.
It was sheer strength, as far as I'm concerned.
But again, Tully was trying to give that guy quite a bit in that match, and and the guy would fire up, and then he'd just stop.
Yeah. So
Tully would have to take back over.
He did try, but I couldn't believe it, because when I seen him go up and he brought him up and he got that, I'm thinking, how's he getting him back up? How's he gonna get this big old guy? Because that guy was at least a 220, 230 at least.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
if not more. And how's he going to get him back up out of that thing? But he did it, and I have to give Tully one thing: tremendous. And it looked great when he gave it to him too. And right after that, Rodney, Thunderbolt Patterson and Manny Fernandez comes out, and once again, I thought Thunderbolt Patterson didn't talk enough. I thought Manny Fernandez took over the interview.
Honestly, this thing is not about Manny Fernandez. It is about Thunderbolt Patterson. It's about Olin. Yeah. And he like you said, Manny just took over. Thunderbolt needs the time to be able to talk and do the pauses that he needs to, because what he's doing is he's drawing the crowd in with him. And if you rush Thunderbolt, he can't do that. And then all of a sudden it was like, give me the microphone, you don't know what you're talking about, and let me do the whole thing. And which is it was absolutely wrong. This is about Thunderbolt, it's not about Manny.
Yep. Yeah, I think if he would allow him, Thunderbolt could have helped him really get over in Atlanta, especially in that Georgia territory. Right after that, here it comes, the World Television title, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes against Crusher Khrushchev, Ivan Koloff at ringside. Jack, what did you think about the match?
I thought it was pretty good. Solid match. I always thought Crusher could work. Even, Barry, when he went on to Demolition Smash, he was really good in that role too. I thought he was, one of them, just a great hand throughout most of his career.
Rodney, what did you think?
That was awesome, absolutely awesome. Dusty was the top of his game, and again, psychology 101. I mean, they laid it out exactly right. Dusty in the end was whipped in the opposite corner by Khrushchev. Khrushchev goes in. Dusty schoolboards him back 1, 2, 3, and then heck breaks loose.
Well, what I thought was great though, Ivan comes in the ring. Ivan comes in like he's going to do something to Dusty. Dusty flips him over, gets him in the figure 4 leg lock.
Yep.
And then here comes Nikita in there, and then all the Thunderbolt and Manny comes out and makes
they get Dusty in the ropes on the second rope with Nikita on the outside, and Crusher Khrushchev comes off the second rope on his back.
Yeah, just a great, and Dusty Rhodes did a drop kick.
Yeah, and here's the thing: Dusty doesn't care. He doesn't care to sell. No. He won't, and he's always okay with putting somebody else over. Always.
Dusty always said in interviews, and even when I talked to him back when we was promoting Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling, if you want the people to hurt when you're hurting. You want people to be happy when you're happy. You want them to be sad when you're sad. And as long as you can do that, you'll be successful in pro wrestling. And I told Jose Estrada, I believe it was his name, told him these things. He said, you got to make them people feel for you. And he said, if they'll feel for you, they're going to love you in the end. And he did try. Jorge did try. He was a great little wrestler, by the way. Yeah, back in those days. Great match. And then Manny Fernandez and Thunderbolt Patterson has an interview. All right, I must have a senior moment because I don't remember this interview. I have it wrote down, but I don't remember the interview.
It was more Thunderbolt this time. I guess Dusty got on Manny. Do not disyank the interview. Let him do what he's got to do. But still, in the end, Manny does the same thing, but it's in a shorter way right at the end. And again, Thunderbolt needs that time to do his, and almost get to the point of cussing, and he's got to, and he's got to say, I'm full.
It's almost like Manny didn't understand Thunderbolt Patterson.
He probably did.
He never watched him. He thought he was just through with his interview, and he wasn't. He's fixing to do his thing. And Thunderbolt was good about it, though. I mean, you could tell he was just okay. This is good. Right after that, Ole and Art Anderson goes against Gerald Finley, which I always enjoyed watching wrestle, and George South. Jack, what did you think about this tag team match?
It was a wrestling lesson.
Yes.
It was everything that a heel tag team is supposed to do. They pick a body part and they beat you down with it. And nobody better than the Andersons. I don't care what form or fashion, which ones are in there. When it was Andersons, it was about wrestling.
And on Sunday, May 12th, 1985, in the Omni, that they got either Thunderbolt or Manny in that arm, and the people were going nuts for them to get the tag. It was all built to that. It was what it was done on television. The only thing, Rodney, we talked about this in this tag team match. What happened in this match that Scrappy McGallion shouldn't allow?
That was the illegal tag Ole and Ard made. They were both in the ring at the same time. Ard was not back out on the ring apron, so Ole tagged him, and he wasn't even in the corner. He was just like, he just tagged him. So Tony just kind of covered it up. They just kind of covered it up that it didn't happen. But yeah, that was illegal. They shouldn't have let that happen.
Yeah, they shouldn't allow that to happen. There was another instance, and maybe we haven't seen that yet. There's another instance where Paul Jones hit somebody. I can't remember who it was. Gene Liggett, I think. Maybe it was Gene Liggett. He hit him right where the ref Scrappy was sitting looking at him. But. So that's kind of stuff that you got to watch, because it will hurt your business in long run. After that, Magnum TA does an interview. We'll just move on. That was the Magnum TA interview.
It was much better this week. He was smiling a lot. Last show, he wasn't smiling. He was not warm at all. This time he was warm. He was more relaxed. He was comfortable, and it came over a lot better than last week's interview.
Then Black Bart went against Ron Rossi.
His name, yeah.
Jack?
Oh, I thought it was a good match. I love Bart. That guy practiced kayfabe till the day he put his last pair of boots on. So I always liked Bart. Love being in the dressing room with him. And I love this match. Solid, just a solid match.
Yeah. Anytime Black Bart was in the ring, Rick Harris, he was going to beat you up. That's the thing. No doubt about it. Be prepared for it, because he's going to make his stuff look good. He wasn't going to make himself look bad. I remember one time he told me, I was doing this Continental cat game, and he said, "Listen, if you don't get out of my way, and after you do that deal, if you're around me, I'm grabbing you in the ring and I'm beating you up." So I made sure I was gone off of that thing by the time he came.
Well, that's legitimate. That is absolutely legitimate. I mean, and he was right. You don't move, you get it.
Yeah,
he was right about it.
That's the way.
I give you a real quick little aside. We worked the show one time with Continental. Bart showed up. He was not on the booking sheet that night. He had looked at it wrong and had made the trip anyway with somebody, and didn't have a ride back to Birmingham. So he was asking around the dressing room, "Hey, who's going back to Birmingham?" Well, almost everybody was going on to Knoxville the next night, and he was off. So he couldn't find a ride. One of the guys, I don't remember who it was, but he's a babyface, young guy. And he said, "Hey, man, I'm going back to Birmingham. I can give you a ride." He said, "You a babyface, right?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I'll walk before I ride with you."
Yeah.
and your dad actually wound up driving all the way back to Birmingham to take him home, and then turned around and drove back to Knoxville.
Well, that's the Black Bart, no doubt. He was.
He believed. He believed in the business.
Yep. Then Manny Fernandez and Thunderbolt Patterson went against Jim Jeffers and Randy Barber. I always liked old Randy Barber. Well, what was that haircut that boy
had? That's doing the best you can with what you got.
I don't know what he was going for there. Was he wrestling as in the independent? Well, back then it was called the outlaw groups. But what was he wrestling as a certain kind of gimmick back then?
He was the Raging Bull Randy Barber on the Independents.
Well, there you go. Well,
and he was using my entrance music till I stole his tape.
Well, Rodney, what did you think about the match?
Oh, it was a decent match. Come out with a flying forearm for Manny Fernandez. I wanted to see more Thunderbolt, though. I really do. I really did want to see more Thunderbolt.
And then right after that, Ole Anderson, Arn Anderson come out and do an interview, and the fans were hollering, "We don't want to hear it."
Yep. And that was to Ole. Ole had stepped it up. That day it was the day. He had been very low keyed, and then he kind of steps it right up, and he has the people. And he took 4 weeks, that low talk, and now he's getting fired up and getting ready to him and Thunderbolt. Hey, Fernandez about to get it on.
And again, ladies and gentlemen, this was all building up. Every bit of this stuff that you saw on this television was a build up to the Omni show for the 12th. Plus, at the same time, that some of these matches were taking place in Ohio and Maryland and in those places. But mainly that whole TBS show was designed around to build to the Omni. So, Jack, what did you think? What did you think about this program?
I thought it was great, man. And like I say, Ole been leading up to it, and him turning on that crowd, going, "I don't care what you think, you're going to hear it anyway." At vintage Ole, man. I love Ole.
Rodney, what was your take off of this episode?
Yeah, I thought Ole and Arm stole the show myself, but yeah, I definitely a solid show. Getting ready for bigger stuff coming up.
Yep.
All right, that's World Championship Wrestling, Saturday, April the 20th, 1985. It actually played 5:35 to 7:35 because the Atlanta Braves was playing that night. So that anytime they played, it had to start early. All right, folks, are you ready? Jack, Rodney, you ready to go see what the insiders have got to tell us tonight?
Let's
bring them on.
All right, let's see. Theodore is in the house. Good evening, Theodore. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Kevin Barkwell, good evening. Good evening to you. Richard Hood is with us. Good to see you, Richard. Michael Barr, good evening from Southeast Alabama. How you doing? Matthew Dwayne Smith. Hey guys, he stole it from me. What did he steal from you?
It's Matthew. There's no telling what he's talking about.
Well, you'll have to let us know, Matthew, what we stole, or we stole, or Jack stole, or somebody stole from you.
I don't know, but looking at that picture, he stole somebody's girlfriend because he's way too ugly to get one on his own.
Kevin said he's not late tonight.
Excellent.
So
Hey.
No. Dusty could sure pull in the fans. Yes, he could. Yes. He had that ability from evidently from the beginning, because Dusty he knew what he was doing. He knew, and he was a great booker. He knew how to do it. Probably nobody better than Dusty Rhodes. David Bias, good evening, guys. Great show. Thank you so much, David. Michael Barr, the limousine riding, jet flying. Woo! That's more like whoa, though, ain't it?
Well, you know what he was talking about. You knew what he meant.
I liked it when he said, when he talked about Dusty Rhodes in that interview, he told him, he said, your father that was a no good plumber. That was a good interview. It was a good interview. He used that interview everywhere, though. I remember when he went to Southeastern, he had that same interview. When he went to Mid-South, he had that same interview. So that was one of those interviews he had used at least once on his way in to the territory. And I noticed he talked about Kerry Von Erich in that exchange. So he was going to Texas to go against Kerry Von Erich.
Yeah, he would occasionally, when he was going to Texas, he said, "And when I go to Texas, the first Von Erich I say is going down."
Mickey, send all complaints to Mickey Mayfield on this one. He said, "My mom would say, all that money you think Flair would fix his teeth." All cards and letters would go in care of Mickey Mayfield.
All emails and posts.
Yeah. Michael Barr, how many years did Terry Allen Russell, and where did he get his start? I believe he started in Florida, didn't he?
He did.
I think so.
And I don't, you know what? I don't believe. I think he started maybe in 1982 because I know he teamed with. It was Magnum TA, and I believe he teamed with Brad for a while in Florida while Brad was there. So he'd been wrestling a while. By then, he had been wrestling about 3 years, I think. So, and he was very. You know what? He learned a lot in Mid-South Wrestling because by the time he got to World Championship Wrestling, he was doing really good there.
He was polished. He was ready.
Kevin said, when you revamp this, will you be having guests at times? We will if we can get them on without losing them all the time, or we have that problem a lot. So we're going to have to find a way to get the guests done without, you lose part of the time. They're there part of the time. It becomes a difficult.
If you watched last night's show, we were even having trouble ourselves staying on. So
yeah, so
that's what we deal with.
And I guess it's just the internet, in general. So we will try it. I think we do have some guests lined up. We'll just have to see how it works. We're going to have to test them and make sure everything works right before we bring them on. So half of what they say you can't hear. So Mike Schaefer said Dusty was always over, even with the polka dots.
Exactly right. Because guess what? Dusty knew how to get himself over. That's the main thing.
Something I did not share when we was talking about Dusty Rhodes in 1945, and this is something I forgot to share last night. But in 1945, there was another Dusty Rhodes, and this was here's the well. Let me turn off his little. If I can find out how I get back to the comments. All right, as you see. As wrestling, it was called the double wind-up. I don't know why that was the match, but you see Dusty Rhodes, a Camden cop, against Laverne Baxter from Oregon, June Byers from Texas, and Nell Stewart. So there was 1945. The first Dusty Rhodes was a lady wrestler, and that's the Wimbledon Armory. So a little LaSalle Club promoter is who was the promoter at the time. So there was a Dusty Rhodes before the Dusty Rhodes we know. I thought that was very interesting.
Yes.
What you'll find when you do research on stuff, things are going on in the world. When Dusty became the Midnight Rider, did he do that in World Championship Wrestling? I think he did, didn't he?
He did in Florida and up there, I believe. He did it 2 different times.
And Cowboy Bill Watts also did the Midnight Rider.
He was the Midnight Rider too, and actually used Dusty Rhodes as the interview, and then it was him. That was all right. That was pretty good.
Richard Hood asked, "Do you guys remember a Nighthawk Joe Coltrane? Do y'all?"
Nighthawk Joe.
No, Coltrane. I don't.
Was he the one that was managed by Thunderbolt, Richard?
Maybe he'll let us know that here in a minute. Jack, he asked Michael Barr, Jack, what was your biggest title match?
All of them, because I was big.
Mickey Mayfield said, I love that shirt, Jack. Tracy was a great worker. He could do anything. Yes, Tracy was good. Tracy could. Plus, Tracy could really hurt you if he wanted to.
Yes, he could.
Rick Brooks said, Crusher Crucial formerly known as Man Mountain Darso. Yes, yes. He was always, I think that was his gimmick way before he did Crusher Crucial, or Crusher Darso at first, I believe. But
yeah, it was Crusher Darso at first, I believe.
Colton Martin said, just joining in, I hope it's all well, y'all. What was your thoughts on Mustafa Ali leading Retribution?
I loved it. Jack, I loved it. I have not liked this Retribution thing since it started, but last night won me over. Now, if they don't drop the ball from this point forward, I'm really anxious to see what they're going to do.
Rodney, you didn't watch it, did you?
I haven't watched it yet, no.
I can't tell you, Colton. I quit watching Raw.
My thoughts though are, and of course, because I haven't watched the show, this is probably my 5th week. It would seem to me you would want a big, huge name in that leadership position, and I think they, from what y'all are saying, it's a good thing. But to me, it would need a bigger name.
Well, I told him it needed to be me. and they ixnayed that whole.
You probably don't have enough letters in your name to be a big name.
And I think that was probably my problem. I told him, I said, listen, I could take $200,000 contract, and I'll be more than glad to be the leader of this retribution group.
Well, Kevin Mullins is saying that he's not going to be the real leader. He's just the front man, which means that there was somebody else. And we also remember they were doing some stuff last week or the week before last of who signed these people, how they get contracts. And I guess that's going to be the actual leader.
Richard Hood said, guys, was it Crockett Promotion or TBS that fired Dusty after the roller spiked in Dusty's eye? That would be Ted Turner's group, TBS fired. Because by that time, Turner had bought World Championship Wrestling or the National Wrestling Alliance.
And they warned him not to do it.
Well, I will tell you this. They thought they were the National Wrestling Alliance until they found out they didn't even own the name of the National Wrestling Alliance. Jimmy Crockett still owned the name of the National Wrestling Alliance. And finally, he sold it to, I can't remember who he sold it to, but I think he even tried to, I think Jimmy Crockett even tried to sue WCW for using the National Wrestling Alliance. And they said, oh, that's all right. We'll just call it World Championship Wrestling. We'll just call it WCW. Chris, happy for him, deserves the push. I'm guessing he's talking about the
Ali. Ali.
Michael Barr said if it were not for Ron West, Black Mark would have had a long walk to Birmingham. Now, some people, Dad didn't mind them having a long walk to wherever they were going. He just tell them, hey, the street starts right there. Keep on walking, buddy. He did that to a few circus performers. He dropped them off and said, you can just walk back there, because I'm not taking you nowhere. Ronnie West was not one of those people that you wanted to mess with. Am I correct, guys? In this
he did not suffer fools at all.
No, he was not one of those people that would say, now listen, now you don't want to be that way. That was not Ronnie West's style whatsoever. I never saw that side of him. So, and many people didn't know that. Kenneth Smith asked a question, and he said, I met Jack years ago when he was with a benefit show for one of the firefighters in Rainsville Fire Department who was killed in a car. The only reason I'm not putting this up there, it'll take way up there in the thing. So I met Jack years ago when he was a benefit show for one of the firefighters in Rainsville Fire Department who was killed in a car accident. Helped to have his wife. We got to start talking. He found out I was a wrestler fanatic and worked me into a ring announcing. Kenneth Smith. You know Kenneth Smith?
Yeah, I do.
And worked me in ring announcing, and I have worked shows for Jack, and glad he introduced me to the business, and I'm glad he did. And I'll go ahead and put that up there. I just know that's it. Well, no, it didn't take up as much room as I thought it was. I thought it would take up a lot of the room. Leonard says present, and he's going to be nice.
Okay.
Chief Inspector Clouseau. Hey guys, from Georgia, I am late again. Well, I'm telling you something.
Well, listen. Let's Clouseau, if you would just put your number out there for all to see, we'll all text you when it's time for the show to start. All of us, all the insiders, all of us here. I hope you don't charge by the minute, because you're in trouble if you do. But you'll never be late again.
That's right. You will not be. Mark Dodd said Ole was great. I always enjoyed Ole's work. I remember Aaron worked under his real name originally. He was awesome. Great show, guys. Thank you so much, Mark. We love going back and talking old wrestling. The old school wrestling. That's what I love. I love the old days of professional wrestling. Christopher Hughes said, I'm down in Florida, raced on championship wrestling from Florida. Dusty was God here. You know, Dusty was over 1974 until 1980, 81 when he went to work for, nothing but money with Dusty Rhodes there. Mimi Barboza. Mimi Barboza. I love that name. Mimi Barboza. My first opportunity to catch the show, and I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. We're glad you came on the show, and we hope you come back. And we're every Monday and Tuesday. Every Monday and Tuesday, we come live.
Yeah, took you long enough. I've been letting you know for like a year or two now.
Christopher Hughes says he was down here with Dusty in '82, I believe. Okay, now I'll tell you what. I have seen your moments. So I wonder who we're talking about here. Hey, tell us, Christopher. I've gotten lost. Who was down there with Dusty in '82? Is that Magnum TA that we're talking about?
Probably.
Daniel Lang said Mike Graham gave an interview where he said he met Alan wrestling in San Antonio and convinced him to go to Florida with them. Okay. That may tell the tale. I will. I'll actually look on that by next week and see exactly when he did start. There was a baseball player named Dusty Rhodes as well.
Mm-hmm. Sure was.
Chris Burns said that's where he got his name. That's where Kevin Finley says where Dusty Rhodes got his name from, the actual baseball player. Christopher Hughes said, didn't Bill Watts use a lot of talent from Florida? I noticed that Mike Graham came in '85 some. He probably did with being close to Eddie Graham, and Eddie Graham was the one that really taught Bill Watts the wrestling business.
A lot of those territories back then exchanged talent, though. I remember the Von Erichs going to Florida, too.
But, when I think about I believe the 70s were a better time period than the 80s in wrestling. I enjoyed the 70s better than I did the 80s. The 80s were great, don't get me wrong. Well, the first part of the 80s was good. By the time 87 come along, things were kind of dropping down, but the 70s was great, and everything was believable in the 70s. Everything. They didn't do anything that was not believable. Sometimes in the 80s they did some stuff that wasn't too believable, but Chris, biggest name with the most gimmicks, Jack?
Boy, there's been a ton of them. I really couldn't even begin to tell you. Randy Colley, off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a lot of gimmicks. That's true. He did. Rodney?
Actually, Barry Darsow had quite a few. Let's just he lined them up by the time he was finished. Let's just be honest about that.
He had a bunch of those. And there was a lot of guys that had a lot of mask gimmicks in their time. So so it's hard to say. We'd have to really do some research on that and see how many people had so many different gimmicks. I mean, the Superstar was the masked Superstar, Bolo. Then he became one of the
Merchant Acts.
Yeah, then he also was one of the
machines or Super Machine. Yeah.
So he did a lot of things himself. So Kevin said Ali is not the real leader. Richard Hood said Rodney known Joe Coltrane did a program with Pez Whatley after Pez turned on Boogie Woogie Man Jimmy. I do not remember him.
I don't remember him either.
I remember a night Coltrane, but I've got him confused with somebody else. I'm sorry.
Chief Inspector Clouseau said the best part of Raw last night was Randy Orton pinning Drew McIntyre.
Well, that's because Drew did not have 4 other people helping him.
Kevin Finley said, why did Fuller change Pez Whatley's name to Will He Be Hurt? That was Eddie Gilbert, I believe, that did that.
Yeah.
I don't think it was Fuller that did that. Kevin Finley said, and what's the status on Bobby Fulton, Jack?
I see him quite often on Facebook. I think he's holding his own right now, doing fairly well.
Glenn Shelton said, hello to you. Michael Barr, great show, Brett, Jack, and Roddy. Prayers out to Tracy Smothers and his family. Mark Dodd said, I grew up with GCW every Thursday night in Rome, Georgia. Yes, we were there. We were there as well.
We were probably there with him. His first show was in 1977. His dad took him. We were probably there as well.
Yes, we were. Glenn said, got started watching wrestling in 1969. Some good times back in those days.
62.
Kevin Finley said he says Don Fargo.
He had a lot.
Daniel Lang says Scandal Akbar burned Mike Graham in Mid-South and they didn't do anything with it. Maybe Mike got a payoff from Bill Watts and he decided to go home. I don't know what it was. Or the trips. The trips might have did them. Michael Barr said the late 70s and early 80s seemed to draw more fans and wrestling seemed to look tougher back then. I agree with that. Don't you guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
Glenn said he was in 1969. He was hooked on wrestling. And then our last person is Christopher Hughes said, loved your shows on the Freebirds. Terry Gordy was my favorite wrestler ever, and the Birds my favorite team. And we are going to be doing more of those. We're going to try to take a wrestler. We're going to try to take 4 wrestlers, and we're going to try to finish their do a lot of parts on them. And we're going to look at Dusty Rose, the Fabulous Freebirds, Ernie Ladd, and there's one more, and I cannot remember at this time. But I don't think it's. I think Wrestling 2. It may be Wrestling 2 that's in there. I wrote them down last night, but as usual, if I don't have it in front of me, they say the first thing to go is your mind, and then you don't remember anything after that. So I don't remember what I wrote down last night. But we are going to do that. That way we can have it.
Remembers going to the old J&J Sports Center there. And
oh man, Jack, did you ever go to this place? The J&J?
I never did.
Oh boy,
you didn't miss nothing. I don't.
I did the ring announcing there. The microphone would shock you. It would shock you. We pick it up and it would shock your lip. If you mistakenly touched it, it would shock you. It was little. It was a small, about the size of a pen. I was a little standoffish about that because it was a bar.
Yeah, it was.
It was a bar, and so to go to the restroom, you had to go by the bar, and you didn't. And we kind of sat down, and we didn't get back up.
No, Lynn Moore said, Brent and Rodney, my 92-year-old dad worked with your dad in the 60s and early 70s in the Chattanooga area. I got him talking about the other day. He has a few good stories. We would love to hear those stories.
Yeah, we'd love to hear those.
Love to hear those stories, Lynn. Guys, any closing comments about our World Championship Wrestling before we move on and get ready for next Monday night?
Another great episode. Yeah, another great episode. This has become my favorite of all that we do right now. And I love everything we do. I have a great time here. But reviewing World Championship Wrestling days, man, I'm having fun.
Yeah, me too. Rodney?
Yeah, I'm loving it. I think we need to take a look at those Mid-Atlantic shows and those worldwide wrestling shows too, because there's some awesome stuff on there too.
All right, folks, if you're watching us, give us that big thumbs up. And subscribe to the channel. And if you've not subscribed, if you're watching on Facebook and you have not subscribed to YouTube, make sure you get over to YouTube and subscribe to the channel, as we have a lot of things going to go there as we're revamping and getting things different for the new year, 2021. So you need to get over there and subscribe to the channel if you have not. Jack, thank you so much. Rodney, thank you so much. And thank you for being a part of our episode, and we'll be back with the next episode of World Championship Wrestling as we go back in time, and we'll bring back the memories of World Championship Wrestling. And until then, thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next episode.